Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're doing something a little different.
We are.
Usually, we take a stack of articles, maybe a new book, and we synthesize it for you. But today, we are going to do a visual walkthrough. We have a specific slide deck in front of us titled AI Readiness, a strategic guide.
And, when you see a title like that, AI strategy, you kind of brace yourself.
I do. I instinctively roll my eyes. I expect a lot of hype, a lot of jargon, pictures of, brains exploding or rockets taking off, transformer die, that kind of thing.
It's usually panic-inducing.
Yeah.
But this one is different. It's grounded. It's less about the shiny new technology and much more about the messy human strategy required to actually use it.
That's what caught my eye. So I want you to imagine we are sitting in a conference room together. The lights are dimmed, the projector is humming, and we're looking at the screen. We're going to give you the director's commentary on these slides.
Okay, so let's start with the title slide.
Right. The text says, "Stop panicking about AI. Start preparing." But the graphic on the right, it throws a curveball.
It really does. You expect a robot, or maybe a futuristic cityscape. Instead, it's a simple clock face.
But it's not just a clock. It has two massive, thick, vertical bars overlaid on top of it. A pause button.
A pause button over a clock.
Which feels contradictory to everything we hear, right? The news cycle is all fast forward, breathless updates. This image implies we're actually slowing down.
And that is the core thesis of this entire deck. And it's a bold one. The author is arguing that we are currently in a breathing space, a temporary pocket of air.
Okay.
If you read the headlines, you'd think the tsunami has already hit and washed us all away. But this image suggests that while the clock is ticking, the pause button is currently held down. We have this unique window of stillness to get our act together before the button is released.
Which is a comforting thought, but it also creates this weird cognitive dissonance because if I open my feed, it feels like the world is ending. Everyone is screaming.
But let's move to the next slide because it addresses exactly that feeling. Slide 2 is titled The Phony War.
Visually, this slide is stark. It's just split right down the middle.
Yeah.
If you zoom in on the left side, under the header, the fear, it looks like a ransom note. You've got these torn scraps of paper with quotes scrawled on them.
And these aren't random tweets from anonymous accounts. These are the heavy hitters. You have the IMF predicting a job-crushing tsunami. You have Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan Chase predicting wrenching upheaval.
And Demis Hassabis from Google DeepMind warning of societal disruption. Okay, so the smartest people in the room are saying the sky is falling.
Exactly. If you only looked at the left side of the slide, you'd be buying canned goods and moving to a bunker.
But now shift your eyes to the right side. Under the reality, there's just a simple red line graph. And look at the direction.
It's going up.
Steeply up.
This represents white-collar job growth. Since ChatGPT launched that moment in late 2022 when everyone thought, okay, this is it, the writers and coders are finished, the economy has actually added over 3 million white-collar jobs.
Wait, hold on. 3 million? That just feels wrong with all the layoffs we hear about in tech.
That's the disconnect. The headlines highlight the layoffs, but the macro data shows net growth. And look at the footnote on the chart. It points out that while blue-collar employment is flat, coding employment is rising.
The very thing AI is supposed to be best at.
The very thing. So we have this massive contradiction. The disruption is currently, theoretical, but the stability is statistical.
Okay, so if the tech is so powerful and the predictions are so dire, why is the red line going up? Why are we still hiring? Is the tech just overhyped?
No, I don't think so. The tech is real. But there are roadblocks. And let's go to the next slide, slide 3, because it breaks down why we have this buffer. It outlines 2 types of friction.
Let's focus on the top graph first. It's labeled the jagged frontier. This is a weird-looking line. It spikes way up high, creates this jagged mountain range, and then it just crashes down into a valley.
This visualizes the capability of current AI models. The high spikes represent tasks like complex math, passing the bar exam, or medical diagnosis. AI is superhuman at these things. It creates immense value there.
But then look at the crash. I see the magnifying glass icon in the deep valley. It says, counting R's in the word strawberry.
The famous strawberry problem.
Okay, we have to pause here. I've seen this meme. You ask a chatbot how many R's are in strawberry, and it says 2. There are clearly 3. Why? How can something that passes the medical board exam fail at counting to 3?
It sounds ridiculous, but this is what the deck calls technical friction. It comes down to how these models work. See, they don't read letters like you and I do. They read tokens, which are clusters of characters.
Okay.
So to an AI, The word strawberry might be broken into a token for straw and a token for berry. It literally cannot see the individual R's inside those tokens unless you force it to.
So it's not stupid, it's just blind in a very specific way.
Exactly. It hallucinates on simple tasks because of its architecture. And because of that jagged frontier, being a genius one second and then a toddler the next, companies can't just set it and forget it.
Right.
They have to audit every single output. That auditing takes time. That is the first friction buying us time.
Okay, that explains the tech side. But there's a second graph at the bottom of the slide, a timeline, labeled the electricity precedent.
This is the organizational friction. And historically, this is even more powerful. Look at the dates.
It starts in the 1880s with electricity harnessed, but the arrow for factory productivity gains, that doesn't land until the 1920s. That's a 40-year gap?
A 40-year lag. We tend to think technology changes the world overnight. It just doesn't. When electricity was invented, factory owners didn't just screw in light bulbs and see profits soar.
Right.
They had to tear down their entire buildings. They had to redesign the architecture from the ground up, moving away from a central steam engine to individual electric motors at every workstation.
So the building itself was the bottleneck.
Precisely. We have the electricity, which is AI, but our factories, our workflows, our teams, our corporate hierarchies are still built for the steam engine era. Until we redesign the workflow, we won't see the massive displacement. That inertia is our buffer.
So we're safe because we're slow.
Essentially, yes.
But just because there's a lag doesn't mean we're all safe forever. Let's flip to the next slide, slide 4, to see who is actually in the crosshairs. The title is The Vulnerable Middle.
Yeah, describe this illustration for us. It's a busy office scene.
It is. On the left, you see robots. They look stressed. They're carrying stacks of paper, filing things, typing furiously. Then on the right, you have humans standing around holding coffee cups, chatting, looking relaxed.
It looks like the robots are doing all the grunt work.
They are.
But the key here is which humans are being replaced.
Here.
We used to think automation would come for the blue-collar jobs first, the truck drivers, the warehouse workers. But robotics is hard. Moving atoms is hard.
Moving bits is easy.
Moving bits is easy. So the vulnerable middle isn't the janitor, and it isn't the CEO. It's the Excel class.
The bullet points here list the tasks. Summarizing reports, crunching data, drafting standard communications.
All that back office work. If your job involves taking data from column A and moving it to column B, or summarizing a meeting you didn't even need to be in, you are in the danger zone.
It's unnerving because that describes a huge chunk of the corporate workforce, maybe even me. But there is a box at the bottom labeled silver lining.
Yes, the argument is that this liberates professionals. The example they use is doctors. If AI handles the insurance coding and patient notes, the doctor can actually look the patient in the eye. It allows us to be more human.
Which sounds great in theory. I'll spend less time on paperwork and more time on strategy, but I feel like there's a trap there. If I stop doing the paperwork, do I lose something else?
You've just hit on the most critical concept in this entire deck. Turn to the next slide, slide 5. The efficiency paradox.
The image here is a career ladder, but the bottom rungs, they're dissolving. They're turning into pixels and just fading away. And there's a stick figure standing at the bottom, looking up, unable to climb.
This illustrates the tacit knowledge problem.
Okay, play devil's advocate for me here. Nobody likes grunt work. If I don't have to spend 4 hours formatting a spreadsheet or summarizing a 50-page PDF, isn't that a clear win? Why does skipping the drudgery destroy the ladder?
Because drudgery is often just a synonym for context. Think about a junior lawyer or an investment banking analyst. They spend their first 2 years doing mind-numbing work reading boring contracts, formatting pitch decks at 2 a.m.
Right. They hate it.
They hate it. But 5 years later, when they need to spot a loophole in a high-stakes negotiation, they can do it by instinct.
Because they read the 1,000 boring ones first.
Exactly. They build a database in their brain. That is osmotic learning. You absorb the unwritten rules of the business by handling the raw materials. If you let AI write all the code or draft all the contracts, the junior employee never builds that database. They get the output, but they don't get the judgment.
So they can produce a perfect report using AI, but they don't know why it's good or how to spot if it's subtly wrong.
Correct. We are risking creating a generation of employees who have the output of a senior manager, but the judgment of an intern. You cannot climb the ladder if the bottom rungs, the learning rungs, are gone.
That is terrifying. It's like we're hollowing out the workforce from the bottom up, and I guess that leads directly to the strategic error companies are making right now.
It does.
I've actually seen this happen. I was talking to a friend in finance, and he said they aren't hiring their usual class of interns this year because, quote, ChatGPT can do the first pass.
That is exactly what Slide 6 is warning against. Look at the visual, the pipeline problem.
It's a large horizontal pipe. On the left, it's full of blue liquid entry-level talent. But right in the middle, there is this massive red valve labeled hiring freeze, and it is shut tight.
It saves money in Q1. It looks great on a spreadsheet. But now look at the right side of the valve.
The pipe is gray, it's cracked, it looks dry and brittle.
That represents your future leaders. By freezing hiring at the entry level, you are cutting off the supply of future senior talent.
And the text below says the lost asset. It calls out AI natives.
That is the irony.
Yeah.
The very people you need right now, the 22-year-olds who intuitively understand how to prompt these models, who treat AI as a collaborator rather than a threat, those are the people you are locking out of the building.
So you're saving a little bit on salaries now.
But you are creating a top-heavy organization with no succession plan. The pipe will crack.
Okay, so we've established the mess we're in. We have a buffer, but we're misusing it. We're automating the learning process without replacing it. So what's the fix? We can't just keep hiring people to do useless work just for the sake of building character. That's not going to fly with shareholders.
No, you can't artificially preserve drudgery. That's not the answer.
So let's look at the solution proposed here. Slide 9, the corporate pivot.
This is about re-engineering the role itself. And we have two donut charts comparing the old model versus the new model.
In the old model, the gray slice execution grunt work is huge, like 90%.
That's the traditional analyst. 90% of their day is copy-pasting, formatting, digging. Only 10% is synthesis.
Now look at the new model. It's a 50-50 split.
The gray slice is now AI supervision and prompting. But the red slice, judgment, editing, and synthesis, has grown massively to 50%. The proposal isn't to fire the juniors. It's to re-scope them. You transform them from creators of drafts into editors and orchestrators.
But wait, we just spent 5 minutes arguing that if they don't do the grunt work, they don't develop the judgment. Now we're saying just make their job 50% judgment. How do they get that judgment if they aren't doing the deep work? Isn't that a catch-22?
It is, unless you change how they learn. And that's slide 10, accelerating experience through rotation.
The visual here is an orbit diagram. You have the business in the center and the junior employee orbiting around it rapidly.
The argument is this. In the old world, you learned by drilling deep into one specific whole-mastering one Excel model over 2 years. In the new world, because AI handles the depth, you need to learn by scanning the surface of the whole planet.
So instead of keeping them in finance for 2 years, you rotate them.
You rotate them fast. Strategy, marketing, operations, sales. Give them 3 months in each. You trade the depth of execution for the breadth of context.
I see the logic, but I have to ask, is that enough? It sounds a bit like we're training a generation of tourists. If I know a little bit about everything, do I actually know anything? Are we just creating generalists who can't actually do anything?
It's a valid fear. You might lose the deep technical specialist. But the bet this deck is making is that in an AI world, the ability to connect the dots across the organization is more valuable than the ability to draw the dots yourself.
So we stop training drillers and start training architects.
Exactly. You are training them to understand how the machine works as a system so they can direct the AI to build the components.
Okay, so we change the roles, we speed up the rotation, but I want to zero in on what the humans are actually doing in that 50% judgment slice. If the robot is the hands, what is the human? Let's look at slide 8, the human edge.
This is basically a cheat sheet for anyone worried about their career. On
Yeah.
the left, under the robot arm icon, is everything AI will commoditize.
Data crunching, summarizing reports, routine coding. If your job is on that list, you are the robot arm.
But look at the right column, under the head and heart icon. Premium human value.
Complex judgment, empathy, and social dynamics, and my favorite, navigating ambiguity.
Navigating ambiguity is the key. AI hates ambiguity. It craves clear rules and defined data sets. But business and life is messy. It's emotional. It's irrational.
Right.
Our ability to read a room, to understand the unsaid tension in a client meeting, to make a decision when the data is incomplete, that is the premium value.
So the goal is to shift your personal effort away from the robot arm column and into the head and heart column. Stop trying to be a better spreadsheet machine and start being a better human.
Yes. And the policy section on slide 7 backs this up. It calls for an education overhaul. We need to stop teaching kids to be rote processors and start teaching them synthesis, ethics, and empathy.
Which brings us to the final slide, slide 11, and it loops us right back to the beginning.
The alarm clock.
But now it's ringing, the visual is vibrating, the text says the clock is ticking, do not hit the snooze button.
This is the final warning. We started by saying we're in a breathing space, a pause. But this slide reminds us that a pause is not a stop.
Right. The delay caused by the strawberry problem and the factory inertia, it's a temporary gift.
It says right here, adaptability is the metric of survival. We have this time because the tech is imperfect and our companies are slow. But if we just sit back and enjoy the fact that the tsunami hasn't hit yet, we are going to be completely unprepared when the water finally rises.
The pause button is pressed, but the finger is hovering over play.
And once it's pressed, it won't pause again.
So to our listeners, that is the question this deck leaves us with. We are in a quiet moment, the phony war. Are you using this breathing space to redesign your factory? Are you fixing your pipeline? Or are you just waiting?
Don't hit snooze.
That's it for this visual deep dive. Thanks for walking through the deck with us. We'll see you on the next one.